Hello and welcome to the Horse Show. This week, my guest comes from a brand new organization. Well, I should say brand new, relatively within pandemic terms, new organization, and it is very much of its time, and that's Strides for Equality. My guest is Catherine Reddick, who is part of the leadership team there, and she joins me now from the Midwest in transit, you explained, Catherine. So welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's lovely to find out about this organization in the first place, which is, as I said, fairly new. And it's an interesting background. And as I said, it's very much of its time, isn't it? So first of all, I want to talk about you, because you have an interesting background too, as being a lifelong horsewoman, a lifelong eventer, and looking to dabble in other things. You explained to me before we started recording that you're actually in transit now to move to a new home in Austin, Texas. So anything could happen in the riding world in Austin, Texas, right? You could be going Western, you could be reining, you could be barrel racing. Lots of prospects for you there in the horse world, Catherine.
Absolutely. The sky is the limit. And having started my riding career in eventing, I feel particularly prepared to seize whatever comes at me, whether that's dressage or jumping or, as you said, Western riding. One of the great things about horse sports is the diversity of disciplines that are available to all of us.
How did you get addicted to the horses in the first place? Because you were just a child when you started.
I had my first pony ride at 4 years old, and like many of us, decided that was what I needed to do and became that insistent little toddler who just demanded to go back to the barn. And that was my start. I think it found me more than I found it.
Oh, well, sometimes that happens. Now, was there a family background, any connections to horses in the past?
Yes, my mother was a rider in her younger days, but she'd stopped riding by the time I was born. But I do think there may have been some genetic component.
Sometimes that happens, doesn't it? Yeah, and you get the bug and you don't even know it, as you said. The horses clearly found you. And why eventing, though, Catherine?
That was just where I started. I started in an eventing barn, and I think once I had my first trip around a cross-country course, I was pretty much addicted and didn't really look back from there. But as I came back to riding as an adult amateur, I've done a lot more dressage, kept more feet on the ground and gone a little bit slower as I'm enjoying middle age at this point in my life.
Now, that often happens too, of course, in the horse world. Now, what is it that motivates you now in the riding? What excites you about riding?
I think it's the same things that excited me when I was 4 years old. Just the connection to horses and learning to speak their language, learning to speak it better, and also the people. I think as a sport, we have some phenomenal folks who are involved, and the mindset of everything being about the horses, I think, really leads to a very thoughtful and compassionate environment in the sport, obviously with some limitations that we'll be speaking about in this conversation.
Okay, yeah, for sure. And I'm looking forward to that part too. But I do want to draw attention to the other aspect of your sporting career, which fascinated me too. And I thought was really, really super what you have been doing in the rowing world back mostly in Philadelphia. And but that was another phase of your life. But talk about that, because it did take you to the Pan Ams.
Yeah, so I was away from horses for about 20 years, starting when I was in college. Couldn't afford to keep up competing and riding while I was at school, but I did take up the sport of rowing. So I rode in college and then trained at a fairly high level afterwards. So tried to make a couple of Olympic teams and didn't manage to do that, but did have an opportunity to race at the Pan Ams. And my involvement in rowing led me to help start a nonprofit called Philadelphia City Rowing, which provides competitive rowing and after-school programming for Philadelphia public school students. And rowing is a sport that has a long tradition of sort of elitism and also racial exclusion. And our program sort of works to counter that in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's wonderful work, and rowing is such a great sport too. Where is that program now? Is it still active?
Absolutely. We're serving hundreds of young people a year, getting them out on the water and helping them find success off the water as well in school and beyond. And it's clipping along.
It's clipping along. Well, you seem to be one of those people that likes to be at the start of organizations. And this has happened with Strides for Equality, an organization that was formed. Was it just at the start of the pandemic, just before?
Yeah.
What was the launching point for it?
So we were founded in 2020, although the idea for it, I think, was kicking around before that with our founders, Dr. Anastasia Kerwood and Heather Gillette. They're lifelong horsewomen and lifelong friends, and they really used their unique perspectives. Heather is a professional rider, and Dr. Kerwood is a professor of African American history. And between them, their combined perspective, I think, gave them a lot of insight into the systemic and institutional issues that have marginalized people of color within equestrian spaces, and also the perspective to see potential solutions. And that's what led them to start Strides for Equality in 2020 and assemble our diverse leadership team around them. So we have a mission to create a more inclusive equestrian community, and we do that by promoting a more inclusive culture and also by creating equitable opportunities for Black, Indigenous, and people of color in equestrian spaces.
Right. That's the acronym for that, of course, BIPOC. Do you call it BIPOC, or do you have a...
Yeah, we usually say BIPOC.
Okay. And yeah, this is, as I said, very much of its time, because the horse world has historically, and I speak from someone who, was made in England and came from a very, very horsey community where there's a lot of tradition there. And there isn't the diversity. There historically has not been, and traditionally not been, that kind of diversity that we now look for in society, much less in sports, of course, across the sports world. What did you see as your first objectives for this, the first, short-term plan to get this out the gate and launched as an organization?
Yeah, I think what you just said, and I can't speak as much to the UK because I don't have that background, but the perception that horse sports and equestrianism has not been home to a great deal of racial and ethnic diversity is not entirely true. And one of the places that we started was in trying to engage people and educate them about sort of the unwhitewashed history of horse sports. And here in the United States, there's really a very long history of excellence in equestrianism by Native Americans, by Hispanic folks, by Black equestrians. And it's really, we were talking earlier about looking for new stories within equestrian sports. And these are stories that, just haven't been told. And so I think we see that as a key part of our mission, joining other groups like Black equestrians and equestrians of color that have sprouted up in the wake of George Floyd's murder and the groundswell and the movement for Black lives, to educate folks about this history and these stories that have gone untold for so long, and then also to educate people about the anti-racism work that we need to do to actually make the sport more inclusive.
So let's talk about that access first of all, because that's the first step, right, to getting into any sport. Some mothers and parents would say, well, it's easy to buy their child a soccer ball. It's a lot more different to get a horse, a lot more complicated, a lot more expensive to get into riding. So let's talk about access. For anyone listening to this thinking, oh, well, it's beyond my reach to be riding, simply, because of the cost of it. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. That is really the second key part of our mission, is supporting access. And so community riding centers around the country are really the boots on the ground in giving young people an introduction to equestrianism. So we try to elevate their work. We maintain a national directory of access programs around the country and try to drive volunteers and supporters to their local programs to support them. We also provide financial support in the form of access grants. And then we also just attempt to leverage our connections as folks within the equestrian space. So for instance, we have a group from a local access program in Virginia that'll be out visiting Great Meadow International this weekend and allowing those young folks the opportunity to spectate and to have some cool one-on-one conversations with professional riders in hopes of supporting their interest in horses and inspiring them to take it further.
Now, are you taking this to the very youth level, to schools? Are you thinking about how you can begin that process for, maybe middle schoolers, for example, who maybe have not been immersed in the horse world prior to that?
Yeah, we really see our role as supporting local organizations that are on the ground doing that work. And that takes a lot of different forms all across the country, whether it's leveraging a connection to horses to support early learning and reading programs where young people are reading to horses and engaging with them, programs where they're getting an introduction to the more competitive side of horsemanship. I think all of those avenues are important, and sees itself as sort of a national platform to elevate that work that's happening around the country and make sure that folks who are in the more traditional equestrian spaces are aware of these programs and that they feel a sense of obligation to support the inclusion of this next generation in the sport that we love.
We'll talk about the network that you're planning to build as well. Presumably this has left the barn over the last year. And also partnering with organizations and the networking that you're planning to do, because that is key, isn't it, to finding the pathway and progress?
Absolutely. It's so key to be able to create a network of our allies. And one of the things that our co-founders always talk about is that we need allies who are willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with BIPOC folks in the horse world and to be able to speak loudly and openly about their allyship. So we've tried to leverage our connections across the equestrian space in the U.S. to provide social support as well to those access programs, and also to elevate the voices of BIPOC people who are already in horse sports and share those stories as well.
And we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back after this. So don't go away. And I'm back with my guest this week, Catherine Reddick from Strides for Equality. In terms of getting that message out, to educate, and that's obviously going to be key in some areas, really, really important, to break down some barriers there. How are you physically going to do that then, Catherine?
Yeah, so I would encourage everyone to find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We have a website at stridesforequality.org. We're also, as things are opening back up and from COVID, we're in person at more events. We were represented at the event at Rebecca Farm recently in Montana, and we're actually featured on Wake Up Montana. And we will be at a few other major events in the coming months. So I would really encourage folks to check out our website and also to follow us on social media to stay current on what we are up to and where we will be in person.
And how will they recognize you at these events?
We are working on more branding and t-shirts, but typically purple and a galloping horse that says C on it is our logo. And we've got banners and pins and stickers. And we are eager to share those with folks who are interested in getting involved with our work.
Will you have a booth, a trade stand at these events?
We're working on that. It's been a slow process with COVID and restrictions on visitors and whatnot. So I would say our in-person presence will probably kick up more in 2022. 2021 has been a bit in flux, as I'm sure you can imagine, with events having some more restrictions on who can be present and where and the number of people. So we've kept a slightly lower in-person profile during COVID, but are really eager to get out and meet more people in person next year.
Now, for someone who's a professional in finance, I'm sure that's also a big part of a brand new organization. How are you funding this?
We are funding it through the generosity of donors, of everyday folks who have been inspired to really see the disparities that exist in the sport that we love and have wanted to solve it. So it is so critical to get the word out and to encourage folks to donate. Not only to donate their time to local riding centers, their energy to learning more about anti-racism, but also if they can provide financial support. The dollars of our donors is what allows us to support community riding centers through our access grants, to provide more educational material, and then to do the most expensive and what I think is the most critical part of our mission, which is creating professional pathways for BIPOC equestrians. So this, I think, is where C occupies a really unique space within the work around anti-racism that's been happening in the equestrian community. And we're so lucky that there are just a myriad of professional pathways for folks to have a career in horse sports, not just as riders, but as you know, in the media, in journalism. There's veterinary professions, farriers, grooms, managers. There are so many ways to make your passion a career. And for too long, those opportunities haven't been equitably available to people of color. And so I think the most innovative work and what I'm most proud of that we've done is create some really innovative programs to help make those opportunities more accessible.
Now, I also see that scholarships and grants are on your website. Is that happening or is that the future?
It is happening. So this year we rolled out the Ever So Sweet Scholarship, which is a first of its kind opportunity. It's a fully funded scholarship for riders from diverse backgrounds to train with upper level professionals. It's being hosted by Sarah Kasumplik Murphy and Brian Murphy, and it's funded by one of their owners, Edie Ramaika. She's very generously funded it. And so we actually awarded our first scholarship this summer to Helen Castile. She comes from Maryland, and she and her lovely OTTB, Abel, his show name is Unapproachable. They've gone to train with Sarah and Brian at Overlook Farm in Virginia for 3 months this summer. And the scholarship covers their full board. It covers training costs for Abel, lessons, housing for Helen, a stipend to cover her living expenses, competition fees, coaching at competitions. And all of this is with the goal of helping her advance her professional and competitive goals. And we're really excited to offer this kind of opportunity. And the plan is to offer this scholarship biannually. So if there are aspiring professional equestrians from diverse backgrounds out there, I would encourage you to visit our website and check out the scholarship. Our application for the winter cycle of the scholarship will take place this winter. That will close. I believe the deadline is October 1st for those applications. And we do plan to continue to offer this scholarship biannually moving forward. And we're working on developing other opportunities like this.
And the website is stridesforequality.org, which we'll have a link for in the show notes that accompany this episode on our website at wisports.com. Now, there's ways to get involved. Obviously, you can find out more on the website, but you can also become a member. Talk to us about the membership aspect of the organization.
Yeah, we encourage folks, please sign up. You can just sign up for the newsletter, but if you make a donation, We consider you part of our membership group, and we'll be providing updates via email regarding what we're doing, more opportunities to get involved. And also please reach out to us via the contact form on our website. It's how we've assembled our leadership team. We've had folks from all over the country reach out and say, hey, I've got skills doing this. I have a background doing that. And it's really helped us to grow the organization. So please, please, please visit the website, make a donation, reach out to us if you have skills or opportunities that you think you could bring to the table for C.
And Strides, as you keep telling us, C is Strides for Equality. That I love that. That was clever. Who came up with the C? S-E-E, Strides for Equality.
That was Stacy and Heather, our co-founders. So the goal is for folks to be able to see the change.
Yeah.
And to make our allies more visible so that BIPOC equestrians can see the allyship that exists within horse sports, and that we're making visible the work that's being done to support inclusion. And hopefully over time that will allow us to see a pretty dramatic change in who is present and who is welcomed within horse sports.
I love this, all inclusion. So there's several ways to get involved. You can donate, you can become a partner. And as we heard, you can become a member, receive the newsletter, and also volunteer. So lots of opportunities to get involved with C, Strides for Equality. Now, Catherine, is there anything else you would like our listeners to know about the organization? We will, of course, put the links on our website too. We'll cross-promote you on social media, but any final message to our listeners?
Yeah, I would also say that for companies that equestrian companies, we're also looking for sponsors and partners in that regard. So please do reach out to us. We are eager to grow, and those contributions help us to do all of the work that we've talked about, the education, supporting access programs, and obviously these innovative professional pathways programs that we're rolling out.
That's fantastic. And I'm guessing that you'll be partnering not just with organizations within the horse world, but also those events that you're trying to connect, there's events that are so established in the horse world, and not just eventing, presumably other equestrian competitions as well.
Yes, we're really excited to roll out and branch out into other disciplines. And I should also mention that donations to C are tax deductible. We have a relationship with the USEA Foundation that allows us to accept tax deductible donations. So for corporations or individuals who are interested in that is available.
All right, fantastic. Well, it's been great to get to know more about the organization and to meet you too, Catherine. So thank you for taking time to come on the show, and the very, very best of luck. I hope you'll come back and give us updates here with sports.
I would be delighted to, Chris. Thank you so much for the platform and for helping us get the word out about C.
And again, their website is stridesforequality.org. You'll find us online at wispsports.com, where the show notes accompanying this episode and links can be found, wispsports.com, and on social media at wispsports. We always love to hear from you, so do post your comments there. And you can also reach us via email at info@wispsports.com. And whilst you're on your podcast app, do leave us a rating or a review, because that helps other listeners to find us. Until the next time, thank you for listening.